Hey, how are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? It is your Queen Sparkles coach, Nikki, your identity stylist. Yes, that is a mouthful. Excuse me. All right. So, the title of this says The Way That You Think About Money. So, let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. The way that you think about money. Do you know where you got your concepts about money from? Do you realize that those concepts were placed in your mentality at a very early age? Don't think so? Go ask your parents. If you are blessed to still have them, go ask them. What have they taught you about money? What have they shown you about money? Seriously, think about it. Did you know that the way you think about money contributes to the way you spend your money or the way that you go about earning your money? And how well you hold on to or reinvest said money. For instance, I myself was raised up where I wasn't allowed, so to speak, to spend my money unless it was on something necessary. I was taught that, well, from one end, to hold on to it, to save it and add to it so it'll grow. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's called savings. We add to a savings and we watch it grow. I'll come back to that in just a second. But then on the other hand, as I got older and I started my first job, I was told if I have the money for it and I wanted it, buy it. Because if I didn't, I might regret it later. Now, mind you, my hands were like this when it came to my money. Don't play with my money. I'm not shaking my fist at you. Like, this is just money came in and it stayed and it got put away and added to and added to and added to. When I went and lived with another relative, slowly, little by little, and it took a while for that precept, that concept of holding on to it to be taken away, torn down, and shattered. Literally, like, boop, out the door. As soon as I did it, it was like, oh, this feels like shedding skin. You know, when that snake sheds skin, you know, they grow and then they shed their skin. That must be how it felt, right? Just to shake it off, right? That's the only thing I think of that sheds its skin. Sorry. So, with that being said, I went from I didn't have any bills to pay. I was a teenager. I lived with my nanas. I didn't have anything to pay for. So if I saw a pair of shoes that I wanted and they were reasonably priced, I've always been a reasonable shopper. Always, always, always. If they were reasonably priced, not to mention I got a discount because I worked at the mall. So I had the employee discount. I'd look at the shoes, see when the next sale was going to be, if there was going to be one. And sometimes I didn't care. I had my employee discount. I bought those shoes. Again, reasonably. Then I would, whoops, hold on one moment. Okay, sorry about that. Ooh, had to go catch something. All right, so with that being said, now you're about to hear all the alarms go off because I forgot to turn them off. Anyway, so with that being said, again, reasonably shop. I always reasonably shopped for things. I didn't spend more than $75 for my shoes because I knew my feet were still growing. So, but I always got something comfortable that could be worn, very versatile, whether it was dress up, dress down, or just because. And it was like once I did that, that block, that mental block, that subconscious paradigm flew out the window. Literally, it was like it spread wings and it was just like, bye, gone. Because after that, I was unstoppable. If I saw it, I liked it, I wanted it, and I had the money for it, I'd buy it. Like without a thought, just whoop, buy it. Whoop, buy it. I didn't have a credit card or a debit card. I actually paid with everything for cash. Like, do anybody even know what that still looks like these days? I did everything with cash and I kept my receipts. I would write down what I spent and I would see how much I had left. I always knew where my money was going with how much I started off with and how much I had left at the end of the day. So when I got my next paycheck, I knew what I was adding to. Now, here's the thing that I love about my younger self, which I have to reteach my present self, because I was a saving machine. I was a budgeting machine. I had always took 10% and put it in church for tithes, or tithe, gave to God, gave back, right? But I always took another 30% and set it to the left. And the other remaining percentage of my check, I just put somewhere completely and just like had it stashed because I didn't have a savings account. I literally had it stashed somewhere that only I knew where it was at. And I added money to that every paycheck. That other 30% that I took out is what I had to, like an allowance, is what I had to live off of till the next paycheck. And I would add to it. And most of the time I always had money left. So I always just added to that, kept adding 30% to that and putting the rest away. Till it got to a point where my nana was uncomfortable with having that much money in the house and not knowing where it was at. So we save our money, we build our money, but where we save it at makes a major difference, right? If you use your savings account, you're only getting 0.01% interest on it. And at the end of the day, that's nothing. You're literally not really truly saving anything. You're not earning anything on what you're saving. So you look for a high yield interest rate savings account where it doubles your money or even triples the amount of money you put in there over time, which builds up a nice savings account that you make sure when you open it, you put who your beneficiary is on there so that, God forbid, anything happens, that account will go to that person and not just be sitting in limbo and in probate, and then your money's just gone or just sitting there, right? You don't want to do that. So you want to look for a high yield interest rate savings account. And if you don't know of any, inbox me, contact me. I'll give you a list of the ones that I know of, and I'll help you find some as well, because that's me being helpful and giving back, especially since I'm talking about it, right? Now, what else was I saying? Think about it. Where do you get your thoughts about money from? Mine, from my upbringing, obviously. Parents, my grandparents, rather. One set of grandparents, always penny pinched. Always seemed like they never had enough to do anything, or just barely enough to do anything, even though they worked 2, 3, 4 jobs. Another set of grandparents, they didn't really have to work if they didn't want to, because that's just the way they set themselves up. And then you have another set of grandparents who they worked, they saved, military, high class, high society, till this day, still stacked up, still teaching the grandkids and the great grandkids the ins and outs of how to build true generational wealth and how to share that knowledge with their children and their children's children. So, I mean, it really does just depend on who you grew up around and what you let sink in. Because each and every day we're learning something new. We're seeing things that change the way that we think, whether we know it or not. It subconsciously sinks down into our brains and changes how we think about certain situations and certain things. So again, I ask you, who, what, or when contributed to the way that you think about money and how you spend your money, if you spend it at all? You don't have to put your answers down below. I just want you to think about it. Like, sit down and truly think about who, what, when, and how contributes to the way that you think about money. And then if you want to know how to change the way you think about money and how you feel about money, that's when you inbox me. And I'll be more than happy to assist you with that. Until next time, have a beautiful, blessed day. It's been our tidbit tip of the day. I'll talk to you later. Keep that smile on your face. You never know whose day you're going to brighten with it. Later, Gators.